Suicide is the third leading cause of death for teens. Suicide is the second leading cause of death in colleges. For every suicide completion, there are 50 to 100 attempts. While a single suicide is a tragedy, it is estimated that for every adolescent who completes suicide, oh wait, I already read that one. A recent survey of high school students found that almost 1 in every 5 had seriously considered suicide, more than 1 in 6 had made plans to attempt suicide, and more than 1 in 12 had tried to attempt suicide in the last year. 79% of teenagers become pregnant before they're married. 820,000 teens became pregnant just this last year, which is 34% of teenagers that have had at least one pregnancy by the time they turn 20. 80% of teenage pregnancies are unintended. Nearly 4 in every 10 teenage girls whose first intercourse experience happened at 13 or 14 report that the sex was unwanted or involuntary. The main rise in the teen pregnancy rate is among girls younger than 15. Close to 25% of teen mothers have their first child within the first 2 years of birth, have a second child. 1 in every 4 girls are sexually abused by the age of 18. And that in Hawaii is at 1 in every 3 girls. 1 in 6 boys are sexually abused at the age of 18, and I think it's 1 in 5 in Hawaii. Most teen sexual abuse victims, 7 in 10 or 70%, know their abuser. Teenagers account for 51% of all sexual abuse. I'm going to skip over because I have a lot. This one's fun. 1 in 2 sexually active young people will get an STD by the time they're age 25. STDs are more common than you think. There's 19 million new cases in the USA this year. And it's like, what, March? More than 50% of sexually active people will get HPV at some point during their lives. And in Hawaii, it's 1 in every 3. And this was like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 1 in every 3 people in Hawaii had a sexually transmitted disease. And that's only with the people that like went to the doctor and got it diagnosed. Because there's lots that have not. So I would imagine that the numbers are actually more up there. I have to move this because I'm going to fall in that little hole. Alright. So we already, actually I have a question before. I know you guys have your Bibles. Do you guys have notepads? Anybody? Is anybody writing notes? Because I actually have points. So like 2 people have notes? Okay, awesome. Thank you, Pastor Dave. Okay, so if you guys have your Bible, turn to John 5:1. Alright, are you guys there? Alright. Sometime later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem for a feast of the Jews. Now there in Jerusalem, near these sheep gate, a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Here, a great number of disabled people used to lie, the blind, the lame, and the paralyzed. One who was there who had been invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to get well?" "Sir," the invalid replied, "I have no one to help me get in the pool when the water is stirred. While I am trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me." Then Jesus said to him, "Get up, pick up your mat, and walk." At once the man was cured, and he picked up his mat and walked. So the title of my sermon today, I think it's going to be, because I might change it, but for now we'll say, if it's broken, fix it. We're going to go back to verse 5, and it says, "One who was there had been invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him laying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, 'Do you want to get well?'" 38 years. That's a long time to be laying somewhere invalid. Does everybody agree with that? I mean, you guys are not close to that age yet, but it would basically be your whole life. For me, it was. For me, it was until I was like 24. So for 24, I wasn't literally paralyzed, but a lot of my life, I operated as a paralyzed person. So my first point is you, and actually it's really funny because our sermons kind of tie in together. And what Pastor Jake said was one of my points. So this is kind of the same thing that you guys just learned, but you have to decide if you guys want to get better. Jesus asked him, he went up to him and said, "Do you want to get better?" He gave him the choice. He could have said no. He could have gone up to him like all the other ones that he's healed in the Bible, other than this one, he could have gone up to him and just prayed for him and healed him. This guy could have asked him. This pool would get stirred once a year. There was one person that would get healed a year. One person. And Jesus found this man who had been invalid for 38 years. He went to that one guy and found him and decided. He didn't say anything like, okay, I'm going to make you more comfortable, or you know, I'm going to change your mat, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. He said, do you want to get well? He made him make that choice, and he made him make that decision. Yeah. Today, you have to make the decision that you want to get well. It has to be you. It cannot be anybody else. It cannot be your youth pastor. It cannot be me. It cannot be anybody else. It has to be yourself. You have to decide that you want to get better. It's easier. I understand it's easier for us to sit in our sin. And this guy was actually a sinner, because later on in the scripture, he says something, and he says, you need to stop sinning, basically, in the end. Yeah. So one of the reasons that he was laying there was because he was dabbling in sin this whole time. And I understand that sometimes it's our comfort. I understand that sometimes I came from an alcoholic background myself. I mean, you never guessed that, right? But I understand that it's much, much easier when you're having a problem, when you're having a bad day, when something's happening. I understand that it's much easier to grab a drink than it would be to get up and walk the other way. I understand that it's much easier. In Isaiah 52:1, it says, wake up, pull on your boots, or high heels, dress up in your Sunday best. Those who want no part of God have been called out, or have been culled out, I think is how to say it. They won't be coming along. Brush off the dust off your feet, throw off your chains, captive daughter of Zion. He's saying, you need to throw off your chains. You need to do it. There's things in the Bible that will automatically happen when you pray, and God will do that for you. And there's some things that he's saying you have to do for yourself, and you guys have to make that choice today. You guys have to decide that you guys want to get better. The second point is be willing. You guys have to be willing to take the limits off of God by shutting up your excuses. In verse 6 it says, when Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, do you want to get well? Sir, the invalid replied, I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. While I am trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me. He put the limits on God by expecting somebody else to do it. I don't know if you guys put the limits. We box God in by not allowing him to do what he says he's going to do in the Bible. There's two scriptures that say, one, now to him who is able to do super abundantly far over and above all things you dare to ask for or think of. All things. All things. It goes on to say your hopes, your prayers, your desires, your thoughts, your dreams. I had another scripture, I can't find it. But all things he's able to do. Do we box God in and only allow him to do what we think he can do? Do we only look to our friends, to other people? You guys have to understand that people paralyze you. They can be Christians, they can be your parents, they can be your friends, they can be your teachers, but people will paralyze you. There's a scripture, Mark 5:23, where Jesus is talking to a guy, that Jairus, and his daughter had died. And he came to him and he was freaking out. What? How do you say it? He's making fun of me. Jairus. See? I can't talk very well. Okay. Anyway, so his daughter had died. And he got to the place, and all the people around them were laughing when Jesus said, she's sleeping, she's not dead. All of them were laughing. And Jesus said, get out. Basically, he said, get out. He threw them out of the room. Because they were paralyzing the fact that he was about to go in there and make something happen. There are people in your guys' lives that are paralyzing you. They're paralyzing you from what you need to do. You need to throw them out. Now that might mean for you that you need to quit something. That might mean you need to quit a sport. That might mean that you need to quit hanging out with those friends that you have. That might mean you need to throw away your computer or your cell phone. That might mean you need to tell somebody about your problem and let them help you. It's a hard thing, I understand, at your guys' age to lose friends, to lose things that you guys do. But if it's paralyzing you from what God has called you guys to do, it's a must. You guys have to do it. You guys have to be willing to stop your excuses. at your guys' age, you guys are limitless to what you guys can do, like that song. You guys really, really are. You guys have dreams. You guys have things that you can accomplish, and you guys can do it. You guys are at that age where you guys can perfect what it is that you need to do. For me, I know I'm not sharing my testimony yet, so you guys don't really know exactly everything, but for me, there was a lot of things that were holding me back, a lot of things that were limiting me, and a lot of it was myself. A lot of it was me. A lot of it was what I thought of myself, how I thought I was, for instance, speaking. Like, this is not something that I would ever have chosen to do by myself. I still wouldn't, actually. But God. I had to take the limits off of God. Because I don't know who it is in here that needs to hear this message today. But it's somebody, and so it's not about me. I have to take the limits off of God. Most of you already know, I was Mrs. Hawaii in 2010. That is a testimony itself, because what I thought of myself was absolutely that would never happen. Because I had been told over and over and over again that I wouldn't be able to do it. I went for 11 years without winning. And quit for a while, did it again, whatever. I took the limits off of God because He had a bigger plan for me in being Mrs. Hawaii than I thought for myself. Even when we were going out to the strip clubs, I know was it you that said it last night? Yeah, I think it was my husband said last night that we go into Club 51, and I was like, I hope none of them know what that is. But it's a strip club, and we go and pray for the ladies. That in itself is me taking the limits off of God. I was married before, and my ex-husband cheated on me with strippers. For me to go into a strip club and pray for them, and want them to come and know the Lord, and for me to know that they're hurting, and that's why they do the things that they do, is taking the limits off. Because I would not be able to do that. If it was based on my own, I would not have come to this. Because I have been face to face with them when I was the one that it was my money used for that. And I had to take the limits off of God because He needs somebody to do that. And He needs somebody that understands their pain. I want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything before I move on. Okay. The third thing is you need to get up. Verse 8 says, rise up, take your pallet, and walk. Rise is the first thing that it says. In Isaiah 60 verse 1, it says, get out of bed, Jerusalem, wake up, put your face in the sunlight. God's bright glory has risen for you. The whole earth is wrapped in darkness. All the people sunk in deep darkness, but God rises on you. His sunrise glory breaks over you. Nations will come to light, kings to your sunburst brightness. Look out, look around. In the Amplified it says, arise from the depression in which the circumstances have kept you. Rise to a new life. Shine, be radiant with the glory of the Lord, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. Again, there was one person that received that miracle that day. There was one person that received a miracle a year, if you read the scripture. And you don't know why it is that you need to get up. I understand that this is, like the statistics that I read about the suicide, I understand that this is a generation that really plays around with that. And I say plays around because I think people think it's cool sometimes to threaten it or to cut. And I understand that there's reasons that people do it. I understand that there's hurts that are deeper than other people understand. But it's a demonic spirit for one thing. It actually says cutting is a demonic spirit in the Bible. Yeah. Yes. And you don't know what you're doing with that. I have been through that. I have been through the cutting. I have been through suicide attempts. And you know, what if I had actually died? What if I had not? What if I had gone through it and I had died? What if my purpose in life is not only for what I'm doing right now, even because this is a small thing. What if my son is in the NFL like he wants to be? What if he becomes a creature of thousands and millions and trillions? I would have stopped that from happening. I would have stopped that from happening by one choice of not getting up. And again, I understand getting up is super, super hard when you guys are going through things that you want to stay down. I understand it's so hard. But you have to get up. You have to allow God to work on you. by getting up.
Wow.
The fourth thing, pick up your mat. Jesus said, take up your bed, take up your mat in some verses, in some translations. Get rid of it, don't leave it there. God said, pick up your mat and take it with you. Now, I was trying to go through the Hebrew, and we have some cool people in our church that do all this Hebrew stuff, and I couldn't find anything on dissecting the word and finding out exactly what mat is. It's an actual mat, so I mean, so that's all. Awesome. I was really impressed by that, but I was like, seriously, I need something deeper than that. This is not good. But listen, your mat, I don't know what kind of mat you guys have. Okay? A mat, I like the way that this is said. Where is it? This guy named G. Campbell Morgan, I don't know who he is, but he's somebody cool. He's smart. And he said, God said that in order to make no provision for a relapse. Your mat, when you guys have a bed, you guys have a mat, whatever. Okay, a mat is something that you guys can lay down on. It's something that you can go back on. It's something that you can rely on. It's something that hinders you, that stops you from doing what you need to do. It's something that you guys can get up. All these, okay? So what were my points? Nobody? Okay. Okay, so all this, you can decide you want to get better. You can decide that, because I make decisions every day and then break them the next day. We can decide all we want. We can be willing all we want. We can get up all we want. But if we don't pick up our mat, we will always go back to that mat. We will go back to that.
Good stuff.
We will go back to that thing. I understand, again, it's easier to do that. We're not asking you guys to do something that's easy. Because the easy thing would be for you guys to do the 3 first steps that I said, and then go back and lay on your mat tomorrow. When we leave this conference, which is usually what happens at a youth conference. And then we have to fix it next year. Jesus didn't give him the option. Jesus did not give him the option of doing that. He said, pick up your mat and go. Okay, I'm gonna do my last point, and then I'm gonna share my testimony. So I'm gonna have Brent come up. I wanted him to be up here the whole time because your voice just sounds so much better with somebody playing on it. He's my best friend's husband, so I can take him wherever I go. She won't care, because I need to just have him all the time. But my 5th point is that you need to walk. It says, and Jesus said to him, get up, pick up your mat and walk. At once the man was cured and picked up his mat and he walked. Don't expect to be carried. You cannot. You have to walk. We all want to be carried. We all want to be lullabied all the way to wherever we gotta go. If you get carried, you're gonna go back to your mat because you haven't walked it out. I'm gonna. Can you pass out those papers? I have papers. It's under your butt. You just sit down. They're little papers. I'm going to share my testimony, and while I'm doing that, I want you guys to write down on these papers, and your trash can too. Sorry, they're coming. I want you guys to write down on these papers what it is that you guys consider your mat. It could be anything. It could be fear. It could be cheating. It could be lying. It could be anything. Anything that you guys revert to when you guys feel freaked out. It could be anything. I know that Pastor Matt shared a little bit of my testimony last night, but I was raped by my grandfather for 7 years. And what that does to somebody that is supposed to be loved by their family member, a man that's supposed to, we're supposed to find comfort in that. I used to get jealous of my friends that would have grandpas that they could go and sit on their knees and be granddaughter, grandfather type thing. I used to get jealous because I didn't understand. And then somebody came to me and told me that I should trust this guy named Jesus. No, that was not happening. Because every man in my life had hurt me. I went from that, I became a statistic. And that's why I like to do statistics, because I became a statistic. I became a horrible one. I became the alcoholic. It says that girls that are sexually abused become alcoholics, that they are teen moms, that they try to commit suicide, that they dabble in drugs, that they're very promiscuous. I was all of the above. I went from that to alcoholic, to trying drugs, 2 of them almost killing me, to going to one boyfriend who I dated for 4 or 5 years, and had my head slammed into a computer once, had a rock cut my face. I went from one problem to another problem to another problem to another problem. Then I got pregnant at 19. I became the statistic. I got pregnant at 19 and got married because I thought that was the right thing to do. Then I got abandoned by that same person after I had 2 kids when one was 2 months old and one was 2 years old. I got abandoned, left. And again, somebody said, this is what I wasn't that, like Pastor Julie has said, I wasn't the person that grew up in church, that wandered away. I was the person that had to hit rock bottom before I understood. I was that rock bottom Christian that had to hit rock bottom before I was like, all right, Jesus, what can you do for me? And it was like that. My attitude was like that because I didn't understand that a man could love me for who I was at that point. I didn't understand a man could fix my problems when all they did was destroy my entire life. My mat was alcohol. My mat was broken men. My mat was depression. I liked to go, you know, one of the things about depression and about picking up your mat is that we don't want to sometimes. It's way too hard. We don't want to because that depression is the place that we need to stay sometimes. It's the only thing that we know. It's the only comfort that we know. It's the only thing that's always been there for us. It wasn't somebody, it wasn't something, it was depression and how that made us feel. And what this is saying, what Jesus is saying is that take up your mat and go. Walk it out. His method was first he asked the impossible thing. The impossible thing, do you want to get better? Jesus is asking that today of you guys. Do you want to get better? The second thing, he removed all the possibilities of relapse. All of it. There was no possibilities for him to go down on the leg after on that mat. And third, he expected a continued success. It continues on in the scripture to talk about the guy didn't know it was Jesus that had healed him. And he went and said, sin no more. Same thing that they were saying. And I understand that it's super hard for you guys to take that mat and walk with it and understand that it's gone after you are done with it. And that's why we have the trash can here. Is because in a minute I am going to call and I'm going to ask you guys to be super, super brave because God's asking you, do you want to get better? And it's a very serious question. It's very real and in your face. Do you want to get better? Because if you do, all the answers are right here. And when you guys come up and put your guys' mat in here, whatever it is, I want you to crumple it up. I want you to put it in there. You guys can go on this side, and then I'll have the prayer burners on this side. I want you guys to throw it away, and I want you to come get prayer. And I want you guys to believe that it is done. Understand that you took your mat up. You cannot go back to it. So tonight, when you try, it's not there. It's gone. It's not there. He was a homeless man because he had lived there for 38 years. His mat was probably like, you know, I mean, who knows what it could have been. It could have been, again, I was looking up to try to find something really deep, and it did not give me anything. It said like a rolled up mat. But it could have been a newspaper. But it was probably a frayed, nasty mat because it was something that he found comfort in. You guys have the ability to do whatever it is that you want, whatever it is in your guys' heart, whatever it is that you guys desire. But you guys cannot have these hindrances right in front of you, so easy for you to just walk back and get back on that mat. You cannot. And so we want to give you the opportunity today, if you guys want to get better, because I know there's some people that don't, but if you want to get better, Jesus is asking, if you want to get better, I want you guys to write it down, and I want you guys to come line up over here. Nobody? That's okay, we don't have to have anybody, but if there is, make sure you guys, when you do it, make me up. They're going to stand up on this side. Okay, we're just going to have everybody stand. And then if you guys feel like you want to give it a minute, if you guys feel like there's something that you guys have, even if you guys don't want to write it down, we're going to throw this in the trash can. Nobody's going to go looking through it to see what your guys' issues are. If you guys want to come up and you don't want to write it down, that's okay too. But come up. And all it is just a suggestion of what you guys are doing for God. And you're taking it up and you're leaving it at the altar today. Like I said, it could be anything. It could be fear. It could be that you guys have the same drama as me. People call my testimony drama. It's pretty dramatic. It could be that you guys have that same testimony. It could be that you guys have a worse one than me. But I want you guys to be able to accomplish everything that God's placed in your guys' hearts. And in order to do that, you guys have to take the step.